To the people of the city and the county palatine of Lancaster, greetings! Know ye and rejoice by virtue of the Queen's county palatine of Lancaster, the citizens of the hundreds of Lonsdale, north and south of the Sands, Amounderness, Leyland, Blackburn, Salford and West Derby are forever entitled to style themselves Lancastrians. Throughout the county palatine, from the Furness Fells to the River Mersey, from the Irish Sea to the Pennines, this day shall ever mark the people's pleasure in that excellent distinction. True Lancastrians, proud of the Red Rose and loyal to our sovereign Duke. God bless Lancashire and God bless the Queen, Duke of Lancaster.
This is Lancashire Business Week, and there, kicking us off on this week of discovery, was the fabulous Simon Entwistle with the Lancashire Day proclamation. We're a little late this year celebrating Lancashire Day, but the spirit of that proclamation will run through this week of events. I'm Richard Slater, I'm the publisher of Lancashire Business View magazine, and this week I will be your pilot as we steer round a series of themes designed to get to the heart of the county's business thinking. Our overarching theme for Lancashire Business Week is From Resilience to Recovery. And today our focus is on new customers and new markets. Tomorrow we'll dive deep on skills and recruitment. Wednesday, engagement and communication and well-being. And Thursday, our experts will consider leading and managing change. You're welcome to join us on all of them. For our Friday event, we will go live and in person with the first ever event to be staged at the new £20 million Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre, or the AMRC, at Samlesbury at the Enterprise Zone, with our Resilience to Recovery Forum. It's been very exciting watching that facility come out of the ground, and while spaces are limited for that event, you can register your interest in attending by emailing via the link now in the chat box. Our job this week is to inspire, to advise, to connect, and, dare I say it, to entertain. To do this, we have a stellar cast of more than 30 experts from business, industry, the professional services, from education and training, from the media, from politics, and more. Now, before I introduce this session, a word of thanks for our Lancashire Business Week patrons, partners and supporters: Beever and Struthers, Bigtank Productions, Burnley.co.uk, Burnley College, Cotton Court, Infor Group, Lancashire Skills Hub, Nugent Sante, Zigaflow, AMRC, Lexus Preston and Boost Business Lancashire. And we're delighted to have CG Professional as our headline patron for Lancashire Business Week. As with all our virtual events, we'll be opening with an interview and then moving to a panel discussion. At the conclusion of the discussion, we'll bring you all on screen for networking, so do stay with us. All of these events are designed to last around about 45 minutes plus networking. And you are welcome to join those conversations at any point by sending observations and questions again into the chat box. Today, our attention is on new customers and new markets. We'll consider the challenges of seeking new markets and the opportunities those markets provide. Whether you have domestic or international growth ambitions, we'll consider the strategies that take your products and services wider. We'll also consider the changing needs of customers, particularly when it comes to satisfying demands for more environmentally responsible business. These demands are coming from increasingly eco-aware consumers and from those offering tenders in the public and private sector environments. In a little while, we'll welcome our first panel discussion of Lancashire Business Week, but to help us frame the conversation with a view from the ground, I'd like to welcome Nick Butcher. Nick is Development Director at the E&R Group, formerly known as Emerson and Renwick, or Renwick, I think, the machinery manufacturer, and has been working in an engineering environment for more than 20 years. Good morning to you, Nick Butcher. How are you today, sir?
Morning, Richard. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, thank you very much. I wonder if you could tell us, I think perhaps just to set the scene for us, Nick, could you tell us a little bit about the history of Emerson and Renwick, or as it's now known, the E&R Group?
Yeah, certainly. So we've been around 103 years, so we're quite an old company. We're still a family business. We've been a family business from the very inception. As we sit today, we have 6 shareholders of the business. The second biggest shareholder is actually the 180 employees we have here in Accrington, who retain a position on the board, and that's been key to I think why we've been around 103 years. Is that we've kept to our roots. We've tried to keep all our business around this area. Started off in the leather cloth industry. And then through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, as this became a hotbed of wallpaper, we became synonymous for making advanced wallpaper manufacturing machines. Today, that legacy of roll-to-roll web handling has stood us in the stead we are today, where we're working very advanced markets now. And while we still make wallpaper machinery, it doesn't define what we do, and we supply to all manner of industries today.
So I think one of the things that you may hear out there is that we don't make as many things as we used to, and we certainly don't make machines. Well, you certainly do make machines, Nick. And I wonder, can you tell us where would we see your machines around the world?
Our machine, well, we're in 95% export. You see the products that we create in there, they vary from, as I've said, wallpaper, that would be on your wall. We're supplying advanced coatings today that make touchscreen panels. So anything that makes your iPhones today, anything that could be made in roll-to-roll, display technologies. We're making automotive heat exchangers. We're making lining for cars for deadening sound within that. We're making it for replacement glass layers, so we can make UV and IR reflective layers that would then be laminated to glass films. So our portfolio is wide, and so we've focused on the core competencies in web handling rather than defining ourselves by a particular industry.
So there's a lot of innovation discussed there, Nick. I mean, the business has progressed over the years. Has it moved with the times, or has it pushed the times? Have you pushed to create new times?
I think I'd certainly like to say I think we're quite innovative. I'm very blessed to have a very talented board who work with me on that, and they've always remained ahead of the curve. So in the days of when before graphene was being mentioned, we were actually making roll-to-roll versions of carbon nanotubes back in 2010. We were already pushing these envelopes there. As it sits today, we're challenging some of the work in augmented reality. So where today we're seeing people with headsets where they make, where the computer is injecting images into them. We've been working on this for the past 5 years to make this from glass lenses. Can it be done to make this possible on thin films, so that we, the consumers, can find them at a price point that we can afford it. Otherwise, it will remain the domain of those with a little bit more affluence. And it isn't until it gets mass market adoption that the rest of us can benefit from this. And that's our role as a volume manufacturer, is to find the way.
So in being innovative, how do you feel the nature of the market has changed over the years? And how do you feel the nature of the customer has changed, whether that's an end user or whether it's a government customer or a private sector customer? How have things changed, Nick?
Bringing the environmental aspect into this now, because this is becoming a very big dominator for us. And I was lucky to go and attend COP26 with the Northwest Chamber. We're seeing a lot more change in the volume, the bigger blue chips who want to have an ethical approach. They're passing that down to us under their Scope 3 requirements. And we're seeing the buyers coming into the business today who are actually asking to see our company's policies before they'll even provide us with the ability to tender. They're taking their sustainability and environmental impacts seriously. So that's going to pass on to us all, and us as a supplier in that chain. And again, with our suppliers too, we will have to pass that on as well. So I think it's whether people feel government failed at COP. I think businesses didn't. I think they came together and they will ultimately drive this. And again, the consumers will lead that by the choices they make as well. Government policies will come in, legislation no doubt will change over time, but business ethics is becoming a big dominator. And so I think over the next 5 years, if you don't have an environmental policy, I think it would almost be that would be the exception, and more businesses are requiring that these days.
Well, you're not going to find it easy to get a gig, really, if you're not taking environmental issues seriously. Is that fair to say, Nick?
I think so. I think in time, it's not today because it's not being overtly spoken about at the government level which would affect us. But certainly, if we read between the lines from what Rishi stated to some of the big businesses, the very fact that they're being asked to demonstrate their environmental credentials will ultimately impact smaller businesses. And we have a legacy we have to leave to the next generation, and we want to be around another 103 years. And we won't do that if we don't adapt.
That's an interesting thing. So you've done the adaptation. You've changed the way the business works. Just out of interest, really, what do you bring to the net zero party?
We're looking at how we've got transferable skill sets from what we're doing. So we completed our pledge to net zero very recently, and we're currently going through our science-based targets, and we'll be publishing them annually and how we're doing against that. We're overhauling our internal policies, we're changing our mission statement and our outward appearance. We're educating our staff through this journey and why it's important. And we have to keep moving with the times now. And to do that, we have to change the markets we're in. And to do that, we're going to target the photovoltaic markets. We're looking at all of the way of managing heat rejection. We're looking at batteries and energy storage. We've just pledged a very large agreement to work with British Volt, Johnson Matthey, the UK Battery Innovation Centre, and 3 universities to form a UK-centric consortium. And so our role is to look at making the next generation of batteries, not the ones we see in the car today, but the one that's preceding that.
So there's some good opportunities there. You discussed PV and batteries and new technology there. Tell us a little bit more about this British Volt project, because I think that's pretty exciting, that.
Yeah, so we've been making roll-to-roll machines for trying to make batteries at lower cost for quite some time now. And then over the last 5 years, we were challenged by some customers to look at solid state batteries, which will be the next generation of battery, not the lithium ion that everyone will see today in their electric cars, but the one that follows that, which is inherently going to give more range. It's going to be more stable, much safer. And we've been working heavily on that. And we were invited to participate in a government-led consortium formed by the Faraday. And we're working, of course, with the British Volt, Johnson Matthey. We're working with some of the leaders in this industry with a hope that we can generate the gigafactories of the future. To do that requires fundamental research today. And we've invested about 6 million over the last 5 years just to develop our technology centre to allow us to prove these from the lab to the fab, as we would call it in the semiconductor world.
I think that it's rather nice that this is happening in a corner of Lancashire, Nick, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We always joke we were actually better known in Silicon Valley than we were in the Hyndburn Valley, but I blame my sales director for that. No, we've been working a little bit under stealth for quite some time. But we do have the ambitions to grow. We've changed the board now. The average age of the board has changed over the last year down to an average of 47. We've got young families. We've got long ambitions. And to do that, we need to project a new image. We need to push ourselves forward and promote the down on the heel areas. I mean, we're bringing back a lot of our production and onshoring. So the skill sets we can bring back to Lancashire, because there is such a wide area of engineering skill sets, and we can't do this growth on our own. So while we have done historically tried to grow on our own, the view of the board today is to bring others with us.
That sounds good. And one last thing, Nick, before I bring in our friends to join us for the panel. Excuse me, just thinking about now, I think you mentioned it was 90% of your work is exported. Yeah. When you're looking at new markets as opposed to established markets, what are the challenges that you typically face when you're considering a new market, Nick?
A lot of it is the understanding and getting the education into our sales teams about the locale. Here's my energy saving lights. I need to move. So there we go. So there's another bit for you. So the first thing we would always
don't turn these lights down. Heavens, no.
We established a lot of local agents worldwide. It's important we have boots on the ground to tell us the business ethics, understanding the way local business is done, and searching out those aspiring brands within these countries where we don't have such presence. And so to do that, we've put in manufacturing facilities into North America. We've put in a sales and service center out into China now. So we have a good footprint and that's got expats running that out there. We've recently seen a big marked shift from India, particularly, and their requirements to go into the renewables sector. And to do that, we've opened up an office there as well. And so it's important, as they say, to go to the Gemba and understand the local institutes, work with the local education providers. So I'm a big fan of working with universities and bringing in the fundamental research and publishing with them so that you get a business awareness.
I think there's a lot there, Nick, that says to me, make a lot of friends on the ground is kind of what you're telling me there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Nick, thank you very much. Don't go away, Nick. I want you to stay and stick around for our panel guests. Ladies and gentlemen, so a big round of applause to Nick there. Thank you very much, Nick. Welcome. But welcome now to our new panelists. Would you please welcome Lynn Gillen? Because Lynn is the export manager at the Department for International Trade. She's got more than 20 years of international trade experience up her sleeve. She's supported a diverse range of companies in finding new market opportunities around the globe. She's worked extensively in Africa. She's developed an excellent network of contacts, both in the public and private sectors. Also joining us is Summer Jenkins. Summer manages customer relations at Lingwood Security, specifically focusing on customer retention and driving growth. Her role brings operational structure to a very busy team. And Jed Ennis is the managing director at the Low Carbon Energy Company, which is at the forefront of the design and installation of commercial solar PV systems, battery systems, and EV chargers throughout the UK and Ireland. And clients include, impressively, Drax, the NHS, Boohoo, Boeing, and BMW. Welcome to you all, and welcome to all our guests in the audience. Can I remind you that we welcome your questions through the chat box? So welcome to you all. Jed Ennis, if I can start with you. Jed, what do you, we've heard there from Nick about the way customers are changing and the demands upon suppliers are changing. I wonder how you view it. What are the new imperatives for customers? We see more activity around net zero and other environmental concerns. How much influence will that really have on the way we view our customers and service them?
I think almost, Richard, we're the beneficiary of the change that's occurred. We established ourselves 14 years ago, and it was a hard sell selling solar photovoltaic and things like that. You know, we were seen basically as tree huggers, I think, at that time. But we felt there was a change afoot. It's come a lot later than we thought it would, to be fair. We were expecting it to move much quicker. But there's been an absolute sea change. We did okay for a number of years, but there was an absolute sea change at the start of the pandemic. So that first lockdown, we were sat here in the sales thinking, well, what are we going to do? And within 2-3 days, the phones were ringing off the hook. And I think what's happened is the first thing that happened is the manufacturers that we tend to service, because that's where we can have the greatest impact in reducing cost and carbon, was that they almost had time because they weren't manufacturing. They started to look at the way they were going to address the business post-pandemic. They recognised that cost and carbon and all those things were on the agenda, and they just had space in their own minds to think about that. And since that time, our inquiry levels have gone up through the roof, literally. I mean, we've no outward bound selling, and we're taking 3 inquiries a day at the moment. So that's the level that we're at. And our business has gone from, well, it'll be a 300% increase this year on the first COVID year. And we're talking another 200% on top of that in 23, 24. So the whole agenda has changed, and a recognition that 1, you've got to reduce your cost. 2, there's an issue around the world where we have to do something about carbon. And I think that's gone past the greenwashing. And it's like Nick said earlier, government policies probably failed to a large degree, but industry has cottoned on and recognised now. And this isn't a game anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's not, there isn't a greenwash. You know, it's a genuine desire to look at it differently and be conscious and be aware. So the ESG responsibilities, CSR, it's moved on from CSR. I think CSR was the greenwash.
Yeah.
I think ESG is the real deal in a sense, and there seems to be seriousness about that.
So there was a slowness in the market maturing. So the market matured much more slowly than you thought it would.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably 5 years behind where we thought we would be, Richard, when we set off, but we are where we are now, and the trouble we're having at the moment is the scale of change, the speed of change is. We're hanging on to our shirt tails a bit, really, or the shirt tails of that change, really.
On the positive side, Jed, it's only 15 years to become an overnight success.
Well, exactly that, Richard. I said that to somebody last week. One of the customers last week, I said, yeah, it's taken 15 years to become an overnight success, but we are where we are, and it's great news for us as a business. Obviously, it's great news, but I think generally, yeah, it's good news across the board.
I'm loving the fact that you're just mirroring what Paul says there. The idea that whatever the governments are saying, there are businesses out there saying, "Tell you what, if we buy this, it makes our business better, and if we sell this to you, it makes your business better." That's what it feels like that the industry is taking over.
Yeah, and there's other factors, Richard. Again, like so, energy price rises, so all the issues around energy costs. I can't deny it, are working in our favour, and people that were paying, let's say, 15 pence a kilowatt for their electricity, are now recontracting at 26 pence. That's virtually doubling their electric bills. You've got £100,000 electric bill that's suddenly £200,000. Yeah. You've got to do something about it.
Thank you, Jed. Summer, if I can come to you, I'll bring you back in a bit, Jed. Don't worry. But Summer, if I can come to you just for now. How has your marketplace changed, and what are you doing at Lingwood to meet the new needs of your customers?
I think for us, since COVID come about, our manpower seemed to drift away as we're a service provider. So the way we've changed our is reassurance to the clients. Really, we're coming up with new innovations and long worker tools, so how we can verify to our client that we are actually going to be on site, that they are out doing the patrols, they are checking on the equipment and plant and machinery. So I think trying to come up with other ideas and other ways that we can provide a service without having to rely on too much of the manpower.
And what's worked for you?
We've just invested in a new system where our operatives it creates a geofence when they book onto site. So we can
you have to tell me what that means. I'm sorry.
So it's like a location, so the clients can see that the operative is actually on their site when they should be.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and it just verifies, and they can book on just using the mobile phone now, rather than having check calls. They can do a check call via the mobile phone, which also shows our client that we are obviously we're really serious on health and safety and protecting our operatives as well as their sites.
Thanks. I'll come back to that in a second. But if I can now, Lynn, if I can bring you in here, this conversation today is about new markets, the way customers are changing, the way marketplaces are changing. Has anything changed in the way that one attacks international markets, or is it fundamentally the same way we do it? My question broadly is this, Lynn: how do you identify new market opportunities, whether they're international or domestic?
Well, I think there's two parts to that question, but good morning, everybody. Excuse me. So first of all, research is key. But going back to how things have changed, obviously things have changed dramatically. It's never been as disruptive for everybody. So I think the thing about disruption, it also brings new market opportunities. And I think it's that perfect storm has also brought a perfect storm of opportunity. So I think obviously the way we do business has totally changed. We're looking more now at connectivity, and but like I said, going back to the research, sort of side to it, and it's things that Nick has mentioned, is the fact that my background is research, and it's imperative if companies want to look for new market opportunities to analyse what's out there and what's available. So if you're new to exporting, for instance, you might be interested in things like Ireland, the Netherlands, the Nordic regions, you know, in English-speaking markets, somewhere that's seen as a bit easier. But I think there's always going to be two elements that are important, and one is demand, and the other one is ease of doing business. And there's an absolute plethora of information sources out there that companies can access to do this. And I think one of the things, I mean, there's a real commitment. I mean, going back to your previous question around sustainability, there's a real commitment from government around clean growth agenda, and obviously service sector development and you know, the digital economy. So there is a real commitment and a real change around innovation as well. And I think things that Nick was saying, it's like it really echoes what government are putting this sort of focus behind. But I think make friends on the ground, as you said, Nick, it's that where you need access to overseas networks. And one of the things that's great through us is that we've got access through the embassies. So we've got British embassies overseas that companies can use to understand the local market and the opportunities. Trade missions are an absolute, you know, trade missions and trade shows are a really good way of looking at new markets. I think going back to what you're saying about how things have changed is the fact that we've had to sort of really pivot. I'm not quite keen on that word, but we've really had to pivot the way we deliver overseas and look for new opportunities. And the one thing we do is we do a lot of virtual missions. Yeah. And I think that's a really good way for companies that have never had the resource to be able to go to overseas shows and things like that, or commitment, you know, the time commitment. It allows companies now to see you know, these new opportunities without even having to leave their office. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to sort of blend that approach. So we're going to do quite a few around virtual, followed with physical. So I think that's a really good way, obviously, of looking at new market opportunities. And there's always the great.gov.uk website. I don't want it to sound like I'm doing a sell for DIT, but there is business opportunities posted on there daily. So if companies want to look in their sector to see what's around, then they can get on there and they can register with it to get updates and alerts on what's going on internationally. And if I was going to do just one big plug though for it is the Internationalisation Fund. We've got one of the biggest portions of funding for Lancashire, and we really need companies to get into, you know, to take that up. And if you were looking to research new markets, then that would be an ideal way to use it.
Lynn, can you repeat that web address for us, please?
It's great.gov.uk.
And if I'm sure that will find its way into the chat box soon. Thanks for that, Lynn. Lynn there used, Nick, I'm going to come to you. Lynn, you talked there about, I think what I was hearing there was research, knowledge and understanding. It is still the fundamentals when it comes to breaking new markets. Nick, whether it's international or domestic markets, is that how you look at things? And if it is, how do you strategize around research, knowledge and understanding?
Yeah, I've been lucky in my life. I've spent a lot of time traveling the world and got to experience understanding lots of these, having spent many weeks, months in all areas of the world in a former life as a product manager. But today, we have a policy within our business where we look to promote, we have to attend X number of trade shows. I will KPI a lot of my research engineers to publish work. They'll be attending these conferences all over the world. I have a rule with them that they don't give the same paper twice at the same conference year on year, that they actually will travel, and we have to go and find new customers. We can't just keep ploughing the same field, because eventually that it will wither at some point and we become entrenched within that market otherwise, and you can live and die by the market. So it's important you're always getting in front of new people. We've got a new sales team brought in who are focused solely at the moment in growing their agents network worldwide, because we're going to see a shift in policies worldwide. And as a company who makes 95% exports, as these countries bring in their own legislation on origin, on where things are produced, and they're all measuring their own carbon footprints. We're either going to have to manufacture locally, or we're going to have to do something different from today. So it's important we're already planning ahead. We're already thinking of these things. And we've all had a rough ride, I think, as businesses. We had Brexit imposed on us, and then we've had COVID imposed on us. And then just when we think we're coming out the other side of some of these things, we have the new strains, but then we also have the green agenda. And all of this has met for a really stressful time for business owners. And it's important that we shoulder these burdens, because we've got a lot of people relying on us. And then we have to set a balanced approach to expand look at within our businesses, decide what's good, what can take us forward, and then what we need to focus on. And that's key for us as a board in our company.
Thanks, Nick. I'll pose the air if I may. Can I bring you in, Summer, on that? A lot of your job is built around the retention of key accounts and key clients and upselling to those people. I wonder, the idea of research, knowledge, and understanding. How do you develop a strategy around your retention, Summer?
Well, we've got a bespoke customer relationship management system that we've implemented, which is obviously communications being the main. So keeping in constant communication with the clients, carrying out KPIs on the guards. We've got supervisors going out, regularly checking that they're in full PPE, that they're on time, they've got the licenses on them, and then feeding that back to the clients, positive or negative. So if it is a negative finding on one of the site visits, and we'll feed that back to the client and tell them what we're going to put in place to improve that. And I think that communication goes in the aspect of getting the research, with asking them what they want from their security providers, and just getting that feedback from them has helped us retain a lot of our clients, and being honest.
So that's interesting. So when things aren't necessarily going as well as you'd like them to go, your strategy is be transparent now, and you feel that will benefit in the long run. Yeah,
100%. So it gives our clients the trust that we're not. That we are a step above other companies, that they can trust us, and that we are putting things in place whenever things aren't going as well as we'd like to be.
Thanks, and thanks, Summer. And Jed, can I just ask you to sit slightly close? Oh, Jed's still there.
Yeah.
Jed? Oh, Jed, could you just bring yourself slightly closer to your camera, to your microphone rather? And my question is slightly different. You've told us you know the phone's ringing off. You know you're getting. The outbound inquiries are coming. The inbound inquiries are coming without you having to put too much effort into it. What's your strategy over job selection then?
Well, it's managing expectation, Richard. That's the key, and still there's quite a bit of education going along as well. So people don't fully understand PV yet. Some people. But the latest buzz is battery technology and electric vehicles. So there's still, people don't fully understand what that means and what that means in terms of the business. So we have quite a big educational piece to go through. We've got grid constraints, which mean that the minimum timescale is at least 3 months before we can be active on site. So that buys us, in a sense, a bit of time to work through with the customer. And again, it's just managing expectations. So at the moment, we're saying to customers, potentially, it will be up to 6 months before we put a solar panel on your roof.
And do you not have a fear there that we're just going to lose these people to the guys down the road?
Not really, Richard, because we trust ourselves, and we will do. We'll lose some, but we trust what we do, and we're respectful of the way we approach it. So it hasn't never been a hard sell. It's always been a negotiated solution, an education, like I say, an educational piece, and a trust, and it's building relationships. It's the old adage, isn't it, about people buy off people. So we present ourselves as we are, and trust that customer is going to choose to come with us. And it's not a race to the bottom on price. It's about delivering something that's going to be on your roof or whatever in your business for potentially 25 years. So it needs to be right, and waiting a month or two for that. If somebody's ready to jump ship for a few quid and an extra few weeks, well, that's their choice. And
well, that's how you do your job selection, isn't it?
pretty much, Richard. And but most people we're speaking to are, again, industry. Nick will be experiencing this. It's a nightmare at the minute in terms of cost of materials and supply, and so virtually everybody we speak to is suffering that same problem. And I think if you're honest with people at the front and don't pretend that there isn't an issue, then you tend to win in the end. So that's how we approach it.
Well, thanks ever so much, Jed. Now, I'm going to close us off with one final question. I think this is designed really to bring us back to the theme for the week. And the theme for the week is from resilience to recovery. And everybody's had to do their thing in resilience and recovery. But I think in this part of the conversation, I want to get, if you don't mind me, I want to get a bit personal here, because it's not just about the resilience and the recovery of a business, but it's us guys, all of us, everybody's watching today and everybody's on the panel today. We're having to deal with things that we didn't have to deal with before. So I suppose this is the question, and I'll go to you, Nick, because you put this into my head. So who's motivating the motivators? Who's leading the leaders, Nick? Who's looking after you, and how do you keep yourself going with all this going on and all them KPIs you've got to tick off every Friday afternoon?
I'll actually give my kids the credit there, actually, of keeping me going. And a little bit of, I had a nice little bit of a moment recently when I attended COP26. So I was delighted to see my daughters knew about it. So they asked me where I was going, because I've not been away for a year. And I said, oh, I'm going up to Glasgow. And they said, oh, what are you going there for? I said, I'm going to COP26. Oh, well, we learnt about that at school. Now, I've got twin daughters who are 8. So I was thrilled to pieces that they knew about this.
That's cool.
Although I bitterly disappointed them when I came home, because I thought COP was great. That in their eyes, it wasn't. I hadn't been on TV. I hadn't marched with Greta, and I didn't have Hermione's autograph because she was there as well.
What a useless dad.
Exactly, but no, I take inspiration from my family about what legacy I can leave. I look at the local. I look at the local education systems. We're a big believer in supporting the colleges, in the high schools. And so we're a big believer in, I want to do my bit to promote that and to see 103 years continue in the business that I'm working in. I'm just a custodian at the moment and it's transient, but I would hate for it to fail on my watch because I kept my eyes shut. And we're geeks here. I mean, as I said, we're owner operators as a business. We're all engineers deep down. And so we like inventive stuff. And with that invention comes the opportunities on new markets. Now, if
Nick, I'm going to stop you there because I'm enjoying this too much and I could wallow in this for the next half an hour. But I'm going to move us around slightly. Lynn Gillen, how about you? You've got businesses out there, you've got clients that are desperate to get out there and life's tricky. How about you? Who motivates you? Who keeps you lively and resilient?
Well, obviously, you know my husband, and he's one person that's a big influence in my life. But I actually think it's the companies that I work with. They're actually inspirational. They really are. And it's like they have had a lot to deal with over the last couple of years. And it just seems like they are really innovative and they are really resilient. And it's surprising how we've sort of all managed to sort of work through this. But one of the big shouts out really I've got to give is to the export champions that we have, and they're really sort of generous with the time as well. So if any companies are looking to consider exporting for the first time, they're really interesting to speak to, and they will give you the motivation and inspiration you need. But yeah, I think it's definitely the companies that I work with because they are incredible.
Thank you very much. How do you keep your resilience up, Summer?
I think because we're a family business and we employ people, that's how and we employ staff, and seeing that they can come and do a job and take money home to their families, I think that's one of the main motivators for us.
And what about you personally? What's motivated you personally through these difficult times?
Again, family-run business. Like we can't let it fail. My dad started the company, so we need to keep it going.
Do you know that's a great answer. That we need to keep. This is the infinite business model, ladies and gentlemen. We just keep on going. Jed Ennis, to you, who motivates you, and what keeps you going when it feels a little bit scary?
Well, the resilience bit comes from being a Burnley fan, Richard, as you know. So if
you've got 10 out of 10 for resilience this season,
you learn that over time, Richard. But no, the motivation, we're a family business and my son's now in the business, and we've set a strategy and a plan now for him to become MD in 2 to 3 years, and I can step back a bit. So that's the motivation, is that you, a bit like Nick and Summer, we've got bigger pictures than us, and being a family business, we bounce off each other, and yeah, all the usual things, you know, making sure that you don't overwork yourself. That's the thing I've learned since no, seriously, I've actually cut my hours down over the last 18 months. The busier we've got, I've cut my hours down, and what we've done is we've recognised we need more people and better people in the business doing the things they're good at. That's not always easy because we're in a small industry that's relatively young. So finding those people is difficult. But the key to it is not, there's a temptation as a business owner to go, I'll just keep going. You can't just keep going. You need, and you will benefit from having the right people in the right place, doing the right thing. And that, like I say, actually my hours are coming down rather than going up in a business that's growing. So I think that's the bit I'd take from it, really.
Leaders of Lancashire businesses, be more Jed, I think is what we're hearing there. Jed and all of you, thank you to all our panellists, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. I'm sorry I couldn't get to, there was a couple of questions, I'm sorry I couldn't get to them, but thanks ever so much for sending those through. And I hope you'd agree there's some wonderful insight in this conversation, a fabulous start to Lancashire Business Week. And while that does conclude today's formal business, don't log off, because we'll be opening for networking in a few moments and bringing you all onto this screen. Now, I've learned a lot today, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this again through our online platforms and through our print platforms. And the whole week we are packed with really great guests, really great topics. And I hope that you're going to join us, because you're welcome, and bring your friends as well. Now, before we move to networking, I'd like to thank again our patrons, partners and supporters, and they are Beever and Struthers, Bigtank Productions, Burnley.co.uk, Burnley College, Cotton Court, Infor Group, Lancashire Skills Hub, Nugent Sante, Zigaflow, AMRC, Lexus Preston, and Boost Business Lancashire. Our headline patron is CG Professional. Thanks again to our speakers today, Nick Butcher, Lynn Gillan, Summer Jenkins, Jed Ennis, and of course, Simon Entwistle, for kicking us off in fine style. You can read all about this session online at lancashirebusinessview.co.uk. This will be repeated onto our YouTube channel, and we'll be going big on Lancashire Business Week in our next issue of Lancashire Business View out in January. Meantime, we'll be back at the same time tomorrow, when we'll be putting skills and recruitment under the spotlight. And you can register for tomorrow's event using the link in the chat box round about now. I have been Richard Slater. If you can buy it in Lancashire, buy it in Lancashire. And if you can sell it round Lancashire, you can sell it round the world. See you tomorrow. It's been a hoot.